Hi, I'm Olivia, and today's happy nugget comes from Henry David Thoreau, the American essayist, poet, and philosopher most famous for writing the book Walden, a series of essays recollecting his experience of living mostly in isolation in the woods for 2 years in a cabin he built himself on Walden Pond. It was an experiment of connecting with nature, of trying to live as simply as he could. From Walden, Henry David Thoreau writes, I went to the woods because I wished to live deliberately, to front only the essential facts of life, and see if I could not learn what it had to teach, and not, when I came to die, discover that I had not lived. I did not wish to live what was not life. Living is so dear. Nor did I wish to practice resignation, unless it was quite necessary. I wanted to live deep and suck out all the marrow of life. Henry David Thoreau was born in Concord, Massachusetts in 1817, spending the majority of his life among the woodlands, streams, and meadows. In 1833, he went to Harvard University. 4 years later, he taught public school for a short time before joining his family's pencil-making business and opening up a grammar school with his brother. During this time, Thoreau developed a deep friendship with the American transcendentalist Ralph Waldo Emerson. Emerson urged Thoreau to keep a journal and to begin writing poetry. For the next few years, Thoreau was restless, as well as grief-stricken by the death of his brother in 1842. In 1845, when Thoreau was 27 years old, he decided to build a hut on the shore of Walden Pond, on land Emerson owned, beginning one of the greatest experiments in exploring solitude. It's not that Thoreau is the only one to have had this kind of experience, but what Thoreau wrote at Walden Pond and over the course of his life has influenced some of the greatest leaders, thinkers, and artists of our time. Thoreau did not set out to influence people, but he influenced and inspired generation after generation, because as one man, he was able to record what deeply influenced and inspired him. Again, from Walden. To be awake is to be alive. I have never yet met a man who was quite awake. How could I have looked him in the face? We must learn to reawaken and keep ourselves awake, not by mechanical aids, but by an infinite expectation of the dawn, which does not forsake us in our soundest sleep. I know of no more encouraging fact than the unquestionable ability of man to elevate his life by a conscious endeavor. It is something to be able to paint a particular picture or to carve a statue and so to make a few objects beautiful. But it is far more glorious to carve and paint the very atmosphere and medium through which we look, which morally we can do. To affect the quality of the day, that is the highest of arts. Every man is tasked to make his life, even in its details, worthy of the contemplation of his most elevated and critical hour. Henry David Thoreau died much too young, at the age of 44, from tuberculosis, but he lived those years to the fullest, fascinated by nature and philosophy, reflecting on everything, inside and outside of himself, from how the fruit ripened over time in his land to the role of the individual and the government. Thoreau did not prefer nature to civilization or vice versa. Rather, he appreciated what both had to offer, championing the preservation of the natural world, because he believed that as human beings, we are deeply connected to the earth and her wisdom. Henry David Thoreau never ceased to question his own life, his meaning, and his motives. He was never financially or professionally successful, but his contributions in deep thought and observation live forever, successful in inspiring many to observe the world around them, to take a moment to live fully, and to focus on achieving a personal, principled, and purposeful life. Sometimes we don't know what contributions we make to the world, but as long as we live a purposeful life, we will contribute. Sometimes solitude can help us reach deep within our souls for the timeless truths of humanity that belong to all of us. And that's today's Happy Nugget. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, share it, and subscribe. As always, I link below the video anything I recommend. I hope you have a wonderful day. Thanks for watching. See you next time.